Welcome to Still Surviving and Walking in Your Purpose. Our next guest has an amazing story of forgiveness. Please welcome to our show, Certified Life Coach Laronda Howard. Laronda, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Laronda, please tell our audience, who is Laronda Howard?
Well, Laronda Howard is from a small town, Folkestone, Georgia. A certified life coach, a trainer, new author, published author, motivational speaker, just someone that loves to pour into other people. I love to see people win. I love to see people get unstuck. And one of my taglines is helping people forgive, heal, and live out their purpose. So that's a little bit about who I am.
Forgive, live, heal,
Yes.
and live out their purpose.
Yes.
I like that. I like that. So Laronda, please share with us your survival story.
Sure. My story, as I mentioned, I'm from Folkestone, Georgia, and it starts from my hometown. I share in my book about, having to be bullied. I mean, since the time that I was first or second grade. I mean, can you imagine having to wear glasses at such a young age and people calling you four-eyed, just everything under the sun? It started there, and then it just built upon that. And it just caused my self-esteem to just go plummet. By the time I was in middle school, I had friends. I didn't even call them friends. More of associates, people I hung out at school. But when I got home, that was my safe haven. Being home, I'm the oldest child, the only daughter my parents have. So a lot of times I found myself just going in my room, shutting the door, and just being by myself. I isolate myself a lot. And my sanctuary was my grandmother's house. I mean, there was nothing better than being at my grandma's house, and she was like my best friend. I enjoyed every weekend I would spend with her growing up, and so that's where I just felt safe. Like I said, my parents' house and with my grandmother's house. So I really enjoyed. That's how I dealt with it, and I feel so bad for children now and teens because they don't have a way to escape. I mean, with social media, and all those things, it's 24/7. The bullying that children especially have to deal with. But in my book, I talk a lot about having to forgive others, and so that was one of the things I didn't realize how much I had internalized that period of time. Like I said, from about second grade till about 11th grade, dealing with different levels of bullying and just being harassed by my classmates, other students. Some of them were preacher kids. They were the worst ones.
And that's such an important time of development.
Exactly.
You said from second grade all the way up to middle school.
Past middle school
to high school. To high school.
Yes.
To have to endure that. And we know, like you said, it's even gotten worse.
It has.
Because with social media, bullying is nonstop. So there really isn't any way to kind of get away from it.
It's not. Yeah. So... and I, like I said, I just held on to those people and just that negativity of what they used to say about me. From I had my lips were too big, I was too hairy, just all types of stuff that kids can just be really cruel. And so I held on a lot of that. And when I finally just like released it, and that was only a few years ago that I realized how much damage they had done, me allowing that to fester within me, to hold on and be resentful. When I would go home, I would not want to go anywhere that I thought any of my classmates would be. I know sometimes my mom will be like, hey, so-and-so wanted to catch up with you. They haven't seen you since high school. I'm like, well, they just won't see me because I didn't want to see anybody that reminded me,
you.
yes, of the pain that I went through in school. So when I found,
so even though you were an adult,
yes,
that was still a part of you.
Exactly. I allowed that to be such a part of me. Like I said, I didn't even realize until I just had, one day I'll never forget, I was at the red light and God was just like, you need to forgive. And I'm like, what? You know, at that point, I'm like, I forgive them. I let that go. But he really showed me parts of me that I was still holding on to that negativity, and just, I realized I hadn't really forgiven, because if I saw them at that point, I didn't want to have anything to do with them. So I realized I hadn't really truly forgiven. So it just really helped me go through that process and journey of forgiving those individuals. Mm-hmm. And now if I see them today,
you feel
nothing. I would laugh, talk. It would not be an issue. But back then it was like, I don't want nothing to do with these individuals that really caused me pain. Yes. Yeah. But now I see that pain was for my purpose. And it's like, I'm grateful now. I can really say I'm grateful for those individuals that gave me such a hard time, because now I pay it forward. I'm a mentor to so many. I love high school and college age young women, but I also help, of course, in the younger age girls, and I can empower them, and that's a part of my the work that I do. Is I love empowering other young women, because I know how it feels. They feel like you just don't fit in. Right. I used to think, why do I have to be so unique? Like, why do you always pointing about different things about me? And I always tried to feel like, why can't I just fit in? Right. Like, if I can just fit in, all this would go away, but I could never just fit in. And so, it was.
How did that play out? Yeah. Because the things that we experience growing up really do become a part of us as we get to be adults.
Very true.
How did that play out in your life as an adult?
Good question. It played out as I went to college. So I couldn't wait to finish high school. Like I said, I would get away from these people that never made me feel good about myself. So as I went to college, I'm like, this is a new start. I was living in the dorms, things were going well, and of course I was working as well, and started talking to this guy. Well, he started talking to me, and it felt great. It was like, for the first time, I never had a boyfriend in high school.
Not all the way through high school.
All the way through high school in a small town, either because I was maybe related to them. Didn't want to take that chance.
It was that small.
Yes. Maybe I would be, could be related to that guy, or they were the ones that were picking on me.
Or being the bullies.
So being the bully. So I was like, I didn't want any part of that. So when I moved off to college, this guy, he was a couple of years older than me, gave me attention, and we worked together. And so it was like, wow, for the first time, he's telling me all these things I want to hear.
Right.
It made me feel like, I'm special, I'm beautiful, all these great things. So, it allowed me to get in a relationship that he wasn't ready for. He was hurt from previous relationships, previously married and whatnot, and me just being naive about what I really need in my life and what I shouldn't accept.
Right.
Just being in a bad, it wasn't abusive or anything of that nature, but just not on the same wavelength.
It wasn't good for you.
No, it wasn't. And as we tried to work it out, it just got worse and worse. We even broke up many times. One time we broke up for 3 years, and then those soul ties. I can be transparent. We had sex. We did all those things in college, and so as we were trying to break away from each other, we kept pulling back to each other. It was like two hurt people, different things going on his past, different things from my past, and those two hurt people, it just didn't work out.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Yeah, so, but still, like I said, we ended up getting back together after those 3 years, and then find ourselves married, and it just wasn't a good thing. But even backing up, before That came about while in college. I got pregnant. We were, talking about not being safe about having sex. I ended up getting pregnant, realizing that I didn't want to face the fact. It was like, I knew, throwing up different things, that I had to be pregnant. Got the pregnancy test. Of course, it shows positive. Still was like, it can't be right. So I go to the clinic at the college campus, and they confirmed it. I'll never forget. The doctor was like, "Yes, you're pregnant, and what are you going to do about it?" And I was like, "Well, him and I had already decided or talked about we're going to get an abortion." And I was like, for someone that loved children and always knew that one day I was going to get married and have a child, for me to now be in that situation where I felt like, okay, there's no way out but to have an abortion, because who am I to have a child? I'm the oldest. I always did things right. For lack of a better word, goody two shoes. Never gave my parents a hard time. So who was I to stop that good image, image that I was having? I was, the first in my family to go to college, so this can't happen. Right. And then he already had a young son, and no way did he want another child out of wedlock. Right. In a situation where I'm in college, he's not where he want to be in life. So when that doctor said that, I was like, yeah, we're going to go through it. She said, you don't want to do that. And she shared with me, I'll never forget, she was like, my sister had that, got an abortion. It's haunted her for the rest of her life. Heard it but didn't hear it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We hear what we want to hear.
Right, because of the place that you're in.
So I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's not me. We're going to go with this plan. So got home. We decided, he called a couple of people that he knew, that one particular friend, that his girlfriend had an abortion. It was outside of where we were, so we traveled about an hour, almost 2 hours away, a couple of weeks later, and had the procedure done. But that was, I'll never forget being there. Yeah. It was such a dark place. Traumatic. I mean, I'll just never forget the looks of the faces of the women. Young, of course, it was a lot of young, all races. It was just a place of death. I just, we're all there for a common reason, that we having a child we don't want, and we all know that we're going to be leaving there without a child. Yeah. And it's just a horrible place. And I'm transparent about it because I'm not proud of it. And I'm transparent about it in my book because I had to learn to forgive myself. Yes. I truly had to learn how to forgive myself of something that I felt like I was going to go to my grave with. First of all, I never thought I would do it. Second, to have done it, I thought I would never tell anybody. Yeah. But as I remember one day, God was like, "You don't have to tell your testimony." I'm like, "No, God, no. This is going to my grave. I don't want to tell anybody." The first two people I ended up having to tell were my parents. And it was not because I was at a place that I wanted to tell them. It was because at that time, me and the guy I had been with, we broke up. So I was like, oh gosh, he got this dark secret that over
something to hold over your head.
That's how I felt. And I was like, I gotta tell my parents. And so that's why I ended up telling my parents. Of course, they weren't happy when they heard the news, but over time, they understood where I was and was able to let it go. And it was just so weird during that time that I was pregnant. Come to find out that I had cousins younger than me that were having children that was out of wedlock. And of course, family were upset about it, but they quickly got over it. So it was like, wow, the enemy really had me thinking I was the only one. It would have been the worst thing. Like,
and you would only have one.
Exactly. And then it was just like, wow, okay. But yeah, so they were the first two that I shared my story with. And then, oh gosh, it was at least a 5 to 8 year span. And as I had friends that I felt like for the first time I can really just be myself, I began sharing it with them, and they were just like, wow. They were very supportive, encouraging, realized that I needed to share my story with others. I ended up having a mentee that also, she had her first child at 18 or 19, ended up having her getting pregnant again shortly after, maybe 6 months afterwards. And I'll never forget, we were talking at a fast food restaurant, and she was like, Miss Laronda, I think I'm gonna get an abortion. And it crushed me. It really crushed me.
It's okay. It's okay. Take your time.
It brought back all those memories of where I was at close to her age, and I was like, don't do it.
You know, it's been said that the things that don't kill us make us stronger. And the scripture in the Bible says that all things work together for good to those who love God. And when bad things happen or come into our life, we don't really understand how those things are going to play out. But because we know who we are and because we know we love God, we know that those things work together for good. So that experience that you had positioned you to be there for that young woman who needed a voice. She needed to hear from someone that had been there, that had done it. And something you said was very powerful. You said, I had to learn to forgive myself.
That was hard.
And in that forgiveness, it allowed you to be there for her. Had you not gotten to that place of forgiveness of yourself, you would not have even been free to share that with her.
So true. I would have kept that inside.
You would have kept it inside. So even those bad things, that scripture that says all things work together for good, it doesn't say all good things. It says all things.
That's true.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. And it might not at that moment work for your good, but for the good of that young woman who needed a shoulder to lean on and somebody to help her. It worked together for her good. So I'm thankful that you were able to share with her, that you were able to share with her from an authentic place, from a place of experience, not a place of judgment, from a place of love. You were able to share your experience. And that's what we're called to do. You know, that's why we have tests and trials, in order to have a testimony, in order to be able to share that love and that care with someone else. So I applaud you for being able to do that. The other thing you said, that you shared it with your parents. And that was a very mature thing to do, because you took control. You took responsibility for it and shared it with your parents. And every act makes us stronger. Even though you had gone through a lot of bad things, you became stronger through all of those experiences that you went through. And we know that life, bad things happen. But God has put something in us that allows us to bounce back, that resiliency to come back and be better for it on the other side. So in sharing your story, you know, you moved from that place of going through the bullying and being a victim, from then going through this experience that you had in college, and then having to have an abortion. That was a bad thing. That was a terrible thing.
It was.
But you were able to recover from that, and then be able to help someone else. So, you know, we live, we learn, but more importantly, we grow.
That's so true.
We grow.
That's so true. And that's part of my mission now, where I became a certified life coach and started a company, Hope Empowerment Resources, is because I really want to help those that may not be abortion, but something is stuck, cause them to have pain or resentment and grudges. How do you move forward? You have to forgive. You know, forgiveness is for you. It's not about the other person. You have to, like you said, set free. You have to be able to be free so you can help others. If you got all these things bottled up, you can't help the next person. And so, like you said, I would have never been able to talk to my mentee about what I've been through if I hadn't, you know, began that process and that journey of forgiving myself. And, you know, unfortunately, she did go through with it, but I realized at that point that I had to share my story. Maybe I didn't save her. We all have our journey.
Yes.
And that's a part of her journey.
Yes.
But I want to be able to help that next young woman that I help. And eventually and hopefully somebody will grab a hold of what I'm telling them through my story, and not have to go through that pain.
Yes.
You know, if I can help one,
Yes.
you know, I've helped so many, because it's not something that you want to go through if you can help it.
Yeah.
So
Laronda, you have shared with us a powerful,
Yes.
powerful
Thank
story
you.
of forgiveness and also being able to go
Yes.
through lots of things and come out on the other side stronger and better. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
your story.
Thank you.
We're going to come back with more from Laronda in just a moment. We're back with certified life coach Laronda Howard. Laronda, please tell our audience what's next for Laronda.
Well, I recently published a book, Finding Freedom and Forgiveness is the name of it, and it's really talking about some of the things that I mentioned during this interview. It's really talking about how to forgive others, you know, how I forgave myself, and that process of how. I also talk about the health benefits. As someone that's been in the public health field, it was very important that I also talk about those benefits of forgiving others that we may not know or others may not know, like reducing high blood pressure and just reducing stress and anxiety and those types of things.
Okay.
So all of those, that process.
And forgiveness plays a part in all of that.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
I was just fascinated when I began to research forgiveness, how it really impacts us not only physically, mentally, and spiritually. So I really talk about those different elements in the book.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I also have the workbook. So part 2 is coming out along with the journal. So working
awesome.
different parts of the book. It's been an honor not only be on this show, but a lot of people are beginning to read my book and want me to come out and speak. So I've been afforded the opportunity to do a lot of public speaking engagement. So that's what I've been doing.
And how would someone that was interested in getting your book and also getting you for speaking engagements,
Sure.
how would they be able to reach you?
Well, they can reach me at 904-803-2229. They can also find me on Facebook on the Laronda Howard. I'm on Instagram, Hope Coach L. So there's a few different ways you can reach me.
Okay. Laronda, you have shared a powerful story, a testimony of the value of forgiveness. So thank you so much for sharing that information with us.
Thank you.
We really enjoyed having
so
you on our
much.
show. It was a pleasure.
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
God bless you.
We'll be back with Dr. Deborah Williams with some additional resources. We're back with Dr. Deborah Williams. Dr. Williams, Laronda had a powerful, powerful story.
Yes, she did.
There were a lot of things in her story. One thing she covered was bullying at a very young age, and then she talked about the effects of that and how it played out in her life as an adult. And then she talked about having to have an abortion as a young woman in college. And all of those things were very traumatic. What kind of resources could you suggest or offer to someone that may be dealing with, I know that's a wide range of issues, but it all kind of plays in together, don't you think?
Yes, absolutely. Both of those situations, it's just a building on another thing. It all starts with one core image, which is low self-esteem. How we view ourselves is such a major impact in our entire lives. It is how we fashion the things that we can do. It's how we allow people to play a role in our life. It's about how we interact with the world. Some of the resources that people have when they're going through those things, the best thing is support groups. I find that people who have gone through those particular situations need to know that they're not alone. So yes, individual counseling helps, but some of the major findings have found that group supports for those types of situations is actually even more impactful than just individual counseling by itself.
And the benefit of that is knowing that you're not alone.
Yes.
That there are others that have had to experience the exact same things.
Yes.
Yeah, so group counseling.
And Laronda made a very valid point of it has to be transparent. The more that you keep it within you, it allows it to fester and to degrade you even more. Shame is a place that the enemy uses to keep you held and to keep you bound. And the way that you release yourself and defeat the enemy is to expose him, because he can only operate in darkness. So when you've gone through something that traumatic, the best thing that you can do is to tell your story, which she has done with her life and becoming a certified life coach. How much more can you defeat the enemy by exposing him like that? So for anybody that's gone through any of these types of situations, not only just the bullying or the abortion, but any type of abuse, any type of neglect that they've gone through, the more you are transparent is the more that you heal. It sounds counterintuitive, but the more that you share and see what your testimony does for other people, it actually turns around and heals you as well.
What it can do in the lives of others.
Yes. And with the clients that I've dealt with in my counseling sessions, when they tell their story, sometimes I don't have to come back in and say anything, because it is a healing process
the act
itself.
of telling the story.
Just the act of telling the story.
Yeah. Dr. Williams, thank you so much for those additional resources. Absolutely. I do know that Rhonda's story was so powerful.
Yes, it was.
And so amazing that it's going to help a lot of people, just the act of her being able to share it. Because there are others that have gone through the same thing.
Yes.
And don't know that they can go through that, they can survive, and that they can be better for it on the other side.
Find a team, find a support group, get a group of people that can help to build you back up.
And get some help.
Yes.
Dr. Williams, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I'll be back in just a moment with some final comments. After listening to Laronda's story, she had an amazing story, a very emotional story, a very, at times, painful story, but a very important story. Part of her story was about being bullied as a child. And, you know, we take that very lightly, but after listening to her story, we can see how very detrimental bullying can be, especially if it starts at a very young age. She went all through her formative years being bullied at school, in the neighborhood, and that affected her self-esteem. It altered the way she felt about herself, even as a young woman. So we have to do what we can do to put an end to bullying, because if it is something that's that detrimental, it's going to affect your life for the rest of your life in a negative way, then it needs to be stopped. So if you know someone that is a bully, it's time to shut them down. Tell somebody, let somebody know. If you yourself are being bullied, speak out, reach out, get some help. That does not have to be a part of our lives. No child should go through their life being bullied and mistreated by others. If you see something, you have to say something. We all have a responsibility to protect our children. It starts at home, it starts at school, in the neighborhood. We have to pay attention to our children and make sure that they are being loved, nurtured, and cared for, and not bullied. Thank you so much for watching our show.